Welcome to Aligned to Impact, the podcast where conscious leadership meets bold entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Summer Huntington, and each week we dive deep with founders, innovators, and thought leaders who are rewriting the rules of business from the inside out. Here we talk mindset, brand, content, culture, the real stuff behind building a legacy-driven business that doesn't burn you out. No filters, no fluff, just real conversations that inspire aligned action and intentional impact. If you're a visionary leader ready to create with purpose, grow with integrity, and lead with your heart, you're in the right place. Let's get into it.
Well, it's Dapper RX. Technically, it's our pharmacy, but you know the patients, customers will know it just as Dapper, which is the platform that I'm talking about. We're actually growing at a incredible clip. I mean, we actually just started this acquisition model, testing it.
Welcome to David Pachkofsky. He is the founder of Dapper. Thank you so much, David, for being here on Aligned to Impact podcast.
Thanks for having me, Summer.
So we're going to get right into it. David has a very impressive background in entrepreneurship, and he's really doing some innovative things in the realm of AI and healthcare technology. David, you started your first business at 15 and had a successful exit before turning 21. Can you take us back to that moment? What drove you at such a young age, and how did that early entrepreneurial experience shape your approach to entrepreneurship today?
Yes, making me think here. I grew up in a family of mostly all entrepreneurs. So both my grandparents, my grandfathers were entrepreneurs, and both my parents were. My brother and my other brother is a commercial pilot. But I guess what started it was when I was 15, and actually it was earlier than that, but 15 is when I actually got organized. But when everybody else was going out and getting jobs at Starbucks, they don't have, I was, I was eager to do something on my own, and my dad said, kind of just showed me that, how to make money on your own with your own two hands instead of going out and getting a job. And, and I had always kind of been entrepreneurial in the sense, just, selling things around the neighborhood and, as a little kid, and helping wash cars and everything. But, I guess it was just, it was really my dad's influence that got me going. I saw him doing it, and I saw the flexibility and the time that he was able to spend with the family. And, I had a great upbringing. Both my parents did a great job, and I've, three boys in our family, and, and my grandfather's been a big influence in my life. He passed away at an early age, unfortunately, but he was extremely successful, came from nothing, came back from the war, and, worked in a meat market. He ended up buying the meat market, and then he, butcher shop, and he bought the liquor store, and then the bowling alley, and he turned into this big, he was actually best friends with the vice president of the United States at one point, which is pretty amazing. I just, I was little, but he still had a huge influence on my life. He just had a charisma about him, and he was everything was about business, and he just liked to connect the dots. He owned the Tropicana actually in Las Vegas. Pretty cool. Kind of as Sammy Davis Jr. was his business partner. So
wow, so it sounds like you come from a long lineage of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. So exciting. But so that got the buzz going, and from there I just ran with it, I guess. And 16, it's actually, I've had a lot more than that. I've had probably 25 companies that I've started, but I only count them if they reach $1 million in revenue. They didn't all weren't all successes, but I mean, I call them those. They were successful. They made money. So, but I don't count my successes by my wins. I count them by my failures, because you gotta, with everyone, you learn something, and you hopefully don't make that mistake again.
Absolutely. I did want to ask you actually if you had any specific philosophy around entrepreneurship, and even just tying back to that idea about failure. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when they're first getting started, they have a lot of fear around failing. But yeah, I'm curious if you have any philosophies around entrepreneurship that you think about often. I'm sure there's a few.
Yeah. I mean, I've got things that I do. I do a lot of advising and mentoring. Young entrepreneurs, and I mean, there's some things that I guess that I've repeated over and over and over, and that seem to work for me. And I guess some of the important ones are that I was taught like early on was if you're hanging out, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're hanging out with the wrong people. So you have to, when you're an entrepreneur, people tend to have big egos, and you feel, but you kind of have to, because you, in a sense, you have to build yourself up, and you have to be self-motivated and self-confident, and have all this, but you have to, you just have to stop thinking that you're a know-it-all and that you've got all the answers, because you don't. And if you think like that, you're going to fail. So most important thing is to find people that know how to do the things that you don't know how to do, or the things that you lack, that you're maybe not your strong suit. Early on, sometimes you have to be scrappy and just figure it out. That's okay. But as you build a company, you have to bring in people to take care of those things. That's I don't know everything. Like what I'm doing right now, I mean, there's things that that I just know a little bit about, but I built an amazing team, and and I trust them, and I don't have to sit here and stress and wonder, how is this being handled, or how is this being handled? Because I know that I'm confident in my team. So that's the most important thing to me, I think.
Yeah, team and leadership, and just being able to empower your team to take care of the things that you're not an expert at.
Yes. Yeah.
So you've built and scaled 14 startups, but Dapper feels like it's disrupting an entirely new category. Can you tell us a little bit about what sparked the idea, and what's your role in bringing it to life every day?
Yeah, so Dapper's, early on we were just like a lot of these big telehealth companies out there, like Hims or Roman, a direct-to-consumer model, and because that's been my specialty. Most of my companies have piggybacked off of my digital marketing company that I launched back in 2001, and I still have today. But I realized that, well, for one, raising capital it's hard a lot of times to raise money for direct-to-consumer model. It's not as investable. It sparks more concern. It's the long-term model, but I have done well in it, and so we built this, and we were going back and forth, and as things progressed, it took 4.5 years of building Dapper to get where we are right now with no revenue. But, we did a pivot about a year ago, and it was, it just happened. We weren't actually we didn't, usually you back yourself into a corner when you pivot, but with this, I growth hacked it, I guess, before we even launched. Because what we did was, well, I had this chief medical officer, my first chief medical officer that was aboard, and he gave me this idea And he said, when we're ready, he said, Dapper Pharmacy. So do you want me to back up and I can explain a little bit about
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so everybody understands. So Dapper is, what we do is we provide post-prescription care for physicians and their patients. So what we do is we actually partner with physicians, and we support them and we become an extension of their practice and provide care for their patients, for prescription diagnostics, and vitals, for monitoring their vitals, and we help improve adherence and communication between the provider and the patient. And we provide we streamline the whole workflow process. I can take you through basically the problems that I saw. So a typical patient, as I'm sure everybody can relate, you go to the doctor, and when you go to the doctor, they write you a prescription for, let's say, 3 different things, whatever you go for. And when you leave there, when you're leaving there, they say, where do you want your prescription sent? Right? And you say, CVS, Walgreens. So you pick your pharmacy, they send the prescriptions there, and then you wait to get a phone call from the pharmacy, right? See if they're ready. But sometimes they call, sometimes they don't, whatever, you follow up. When you get there, you find out, they don't have your medications, or they're out of them, or they find out that the doctor was influenced by the pharmaceutical rep was in that week, to start prescribing some new medication that is supposed to be better, but he doesn't know how much it costs, because doctors don't typically know what medications cost. That's once you leave their office, that's outside of their realm. So they just write prescriptions and they assume that your insurance is going to cover it. So what happens is you go and you get your prescription, and then they say, oh, it's $800 or something, and you're like, ugh. So you don't fill it, and then you call your doctor and you leave a message, because no one they're busy, and then they get back to you about a day or so later, and then this whole you go round and round. It's painful. Okay. We fix all of that. We fix it by a doctor. You see a doctor, he writes you a prescription. He electronically sends the prescription to Dapper. You get an email, your prescription, Dapper's got your prescription. You click the link, log in, you enter your payment credentials, and that's it. Your medication is filled and shipped, and you receive it within like 72 hours at your house, free of charge. I mean, you pay for it. It's cash pay only, but there's no insurance.
Nice. That's awesome. So just going back to starting with, so we solved that problem.
Yeah, so we solved the problem by, we built a platform that is fully automated. And what we did was we use AI. I mean, we're a technology focused company, but I also understand, I'm a software engineer by trade. So, I can design systems. I haven't coded in, 25 years. So, don't get the wrong idea here, but I also understand that, from a consumer standpoint, that technology doesn't fix everything. A lot of times, telehealth and all this technologies, they're trying to remove the personal aspects, the human part out of healthcare, and that's not good. There's something to be said about good bedside manner, and and having a physician that having that comfort level, right? That someone's taking care of you, and so we're becoming a technology focused company, but we're also we have this amazing care team that we you have 24/7 access to our care team that you can contact through phone, direct messaging, email, and we have AI. We have this AI health companion that's called Dapper Dave, and which we built in collaboration with Amazon. They funded our prototype, and it will simulate doing a Zoom call with the doctor, but it will also, if you call in, it's going to recognize your voice, and we'll start, "Hi, Summer, how are you?" Right when you call in to our 800 number. If you pick up on the chat, the direct messaging, it's going to pick up that conversation that you had when you were on the phone. And then if you want to do on the app, same thing. And the great thing is you're never going to have that broken, communication that you have, like when you're on you're on talking to, like tech support, and the message drops, and then you have to start all over, or you get the call dropped, and they're like, "Oh, can you, verify your credentials again?" You have to go over and over and over. Well, because AI remembers everything, and so you're gonna always have this, constant flow, and it's gonna pick up right where you left off. And the great thing is that all this, you're gonna have centralized health records, so that every physician that you're working with on our platform will always have access to everything. So you're not going to have any gaps like there is right now with the healthcare system. Every time a doctor needs to get information from the 5 specialists that you're seeing, he needs to reach out to them, and you have to give consent, and they have to hopefully get all this information, and that's why the number 3 killer in this country is medication conflict. People are actually they're either being prescribed medication that conflicts with something that they shouldn't be another medication, or they're taking it wrong. I mean, 40% of 40% of prescriptions that aren't picked up at the pharmacy in this country. It's crazy. And so we're solving all of this. It's all streamlined from the get-go. You get your prescription digitally sent through e-prescription. All you do is log in and pay. It's shipped to your home every month for you. And when you need blood diagnostic work, instead of having to go into Quest or LabCorp and get it done, you can skip. You don't need to do that. The doctor just orders it, and it's shipped out overnight. It arrives at your house. We have a finger prick, and with 2 drops of blood, we can measure over 70 different diagnostics, and within 72 hours, you have your lab results online, and the doctor gets them at the same time. So.
Nice. Well, I'm definitely staying up to date with this stuff as far as functional medicine goes. A lot of folks in my field, I'm in exercise science and kinesiology, and we want to know functional lab testing, and oftentimes they'll send a phlebotomist to your house to do it, but it's cool that you guys can do it with the finger prick method as well. Just streamline it, make it quick, solve the problem. So what does an average day look like for you as a founder, investor, and growth strategist leading a company at the intersection of AI and healthcare? Yeah,
well, doing lots of things like this, and
content.
Yes, it's changed over the years, because now I have children and a wife and everything else, and managing that work-life balance can be difficult, but my day is consumed with someone told me once, they said, as a founder, you shift gears from being a doer to just a thinker, and you're basically let everybody else do all the heavy lifting, and you work on big picture stuff, And so I spend my days basically meeting with all my teams. You know, I do probably 5 Zoom calls a day, and you know, I work pretty late. You know, I'm working. I basically work until 6 or 7 at night, and then I take a break with my family, and then when everybody goes to sleep, I go back to work, and I work till 1 or 2 a.m. a lot of times. So
wow.
Yeah.
It takes grit to do what you're doing and to innovate in such a way. I know there's some pretty wild stats in our country with, where healthcare is headed, and it's people like you that are making this initiative happen to have healthcare be more accessible for, underprivileged folks and, people that can't afford medications. So telehealth has exploded in the last few years. I know you guys don't identify strictly as telehealth, but there is an element of it.
Right.
But you've been ahead of this curve. What major shifts are you seeing in how people want access to healthcare?
Yeah, I mean, with COVID, was obviously the huge shift that really made everybody, with this explosion of, everything going online, obviously, and with and remote access to care. But I think this is, now people before wanted as much separation as possible. They wanted, because of, the COVID and everybody being stuck at home. But now people want I think a hybrid model. They want to be able to make, like I said, we're not trying to eliminate doctors here. And that's why I think where the success comes with, what we're building and why it's something special. And as a investor, a founder, you're never supposed to say you're the only one that's doing something, because there's always someone else out there doing it. But to the best of my knowledge, no one's doing what we're doing. So it's on the record.
Nice.
Yes, I can't give away all my secret sauce here, but it's a unique model, and it's I don't know, we're empowering physicians, and that's the big difference. I guess from my standpoint, that's the big thing. And that's what physicians really like about this, and that's why our acquisition model is so successful too, because unique. There's lots of providers out there that work off of, trying to get referrals from doctors, but they don't incentivize it in any way. It's like the pharmacies go around and they try to get, they let the doctors know, here, you can send your patients to us, but they just, there's no incentive. There's no reason for them, because they got 1 million pharmacies out there, So I wanted to give them a reason to actually want to send their patients to us. And so I wanted to actually support the physicians, because if we help the physicians help patients, then it's a win-win for everybody. And that's why the model is so unique, I guess. It's also because we're not ready to, leave doctors' offices. We used to say, soon, doctor's offices in-office visits will be a thing of the past, and I still think it's a ways off. And doctors, sure, they want to innovate. They all do. They really do. I mean, and most of them have their a lot of them have their hands tied with the big, with the organizations that they're part of that are limiting them or hindering them. But that's why they like partnering with us, because of the fact that we're becoming almost like a venture studio for them, if you're familiar with that concept. But we're an accelerator where we can actually innovate for them. We can actually bring the technology, and there's zero cost to the physicians for everything that we do. That's the cool thing. It's and we don't charge the patients either. We just charge them for the services and the products that we sell to them, but our products and services are usually about 20%, minimum of 20% less than everybody else is out there. So that's an
incredible model that you've built. Just
so
make it accessible, make it affordable, and and free
Yeah,
to
well,
both parties.
you've got a lot, there's a lot of moving parts in the healthcare system, and there's a lot of people that have their hands in the pot. And that's why the costs are terrible, and that's why and everybody says that it's all, patient centric and this and that, but at the end of the day, the patients are the ones that are getting screwed. And so, these public, these benefit organizations and these, care, like CVS Caremark and they're the ones that are basically marking everything up. And so we're cutting out all the middlemen. That's
what I gathered right away. I was like, we're cutting out the middlemen, making it more accessible. This doesn't relate, but I'll throw this in there. My partner's a commercial fisherman, and they used to pay like the broker, basically the fish broker, and now they go straight directly to the restaurant. They cut out the broker, and now they actually make money. So it's similar but different. So you mentioned before we got on the pod about your core product that's launching, which will probably be launched by the time this podcast airs. Tell us a bit about your core product and the beta test and how that's going.
Yeah. So so Dapper, well, it's Dapper RX. Technically, it's our pharmacy, but the patients, customers will know it just as Dapper, which is the platform that I'm talking about. We're actually growing at a incredible clip. I mean, we actually just started this acquisition model, testing it. As far as like signing up doctors, we started doing that in, February, just toying with the idea and seeing if it caught on. And it just, now we're signing up like 5 doctors a week. And it's quite phenomenal. We actually pre-launch, so we'll start beta testing next week with 3 physicians, and then the following week we'll open it up live. But pre-launch, we probably have over 20,000 patients actually ready to go, and it will, it's going to grow from there. We're expecting to have, right now, our, I guess, growing pains, or the things that we're struggling with, not struggling with, but it's not actually the acquisition of the patients or the physicians. It's actually the onboarding process, streamlining the whole workflow because unlike a lot of products out there, if you're selling software or licensing software, if you're whatever, you can push an MVP out, right? And having a mediocre product at best, and then you're taught that the best way to get a good product is to push it out there and get user feedback right away. And you're supposed to take your user feedback, and that's how you build a good product, because you don't build it based off of what you think people need. You find out what people need, and then you build it. So it's different with us, because if we screw it up, with one doctor, then we, each doctor brings between 800 and 2,000 patients. And we lose, that's a lot of patients to lose in one, swoop. So there's a lot of, workflow automation and standard operating procedures that are going into, that we're working on to get things so that things are run as smooth as possible by the time we open the floodgates up. But the great thing is that one thing I didn't mention before is that about our model is that when we partner with these physicians, we're actually building these products with them. So when we partner with them, they join our advisory board, and we have meetings with them once every month, where we do a Zoom call with all of them, and then we have them on a platform on Circle, if you're familiar with that.
I am, yeah. We're transitioning our group accelerator to Circle right now.
Yeah, and so, and through that, we we provide education to them and content and because we're creating a movement, that's Web3. It's healthcare 3.0, which is basically, instead of the old way of thinking, healthcare 2.0 is to take someone that's at, let's say, a negative 10 and bring them to baseline is 0. Okay, that's the way that doctors are taught when they go to med school, is what's the best track to get them to feeling normal again, right? It's not, without the least likely to actually hurt them. But it's kind of backwards. And the new way of thinking, this Peter Attia, he came up with this concept of 3.0, which is how do you get someone from baseline to plus 20, and that's where the whole longevity movement comes in, and that's why we focus on, hormone replacement therapy, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, weight loss, GLP-1, and then we've got men's and women's sexual health, and we have a lot of different treatments. These are the things that we're launching with, and then we'll roll out other ones, later. But yeah, so it's exciting. But what we're doing is we're actually meeting with these doctors, and we're finding out, asking them, what are your problems? What are the things that actually are slowing you down? What are your goals? What would you like to do? What's a perfect, what's a picture perfect scenario look like for you? And then we go back and we actually come up with ideas how we can build this for them. So
nice. I think a lot of our listeners will definitely be very interested in the longevity, as well as building this micro movement towards, it sounds like, not just prevention, but actually optimizing human performance.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So where do you see Dapper 6 to 12 months from now, and what does the next chapter of expansion or innovation look like?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm overly optimistic about everything, but I think I'm also, I'm realistic when it comes to, I guess, what I think that we're capable of, and, what I mean, a year from now, I mean, I think that we'll be a unicorn company. I mean, we're projecting to be a unicorn in 2026. So, it's funny when I tell people that, they're like, roll their eyes. It's
well, what is a unicorn in your mind? Because a unicorn in our mind might be different. But what does that mean to you?
Well, okay, so I mean, a unicorn founder or a unicorn startup is, you become a $1 billion company. So, and so we're projecting to be a $1 billion company, by next year, which, if we can scale without the problem with I've had in the past, and that's why I'm saying this with caution, is that, my growth curves are usually so steep that I've actually had two companies fail, I've had two companies that did almost $100 million and then went out of business the next year because we grew too fast. So it sounds crazy, but if you don't have the infrastructure in place and the resources, it can cripple you. And so, we'll see. We got to walk before we run, but I'm excited. 12 months from now, I think we'll be up and running at full speed, and we can start rolling out some of the really, fun stuff. I've got, a little bit of background, but my big driver for what I'm doing is because I lost my brother to brain cancer about a year and a half ago.
Wow.
And it just played a big part. It had a huge impact on my life. But instead of letting it derail me, and I embraced it, I guess, and you got to find something positive from everything in life, right? Even things that are pretty tough to deal with. But I basically, you know, saw that, you know, he lived an amazing life. You know, he was super optimistic about everything, and you know, he just kind of he taught me to, you know, to just keep going, and so what I did is I you know, I vouched to not donate, but I guess you call it donating. Sometimes as an angel investor, I just call it, you know, donating. You rarely make money. But I'm gonna invest half of the wealth or half of, you know, whatever I make off of from Dapper into startups that are focused on you know, cancer research, you know, improving anything that has to do with, you know, cancer. So, and so I'm always meeting with founders that have amazing, they're building amazing things that have to do with, you know, anything to do with oncology, because I want to either acquire their company or help, you know, fund them and partner with them, or, you know, and bring them on to the Dapper platform and help, you know, incubate them and help them see the, you know, the it's so unfortunate because I talk to founders all the time that are literally building things that will change the world, guaranteed. But so many of them just never do, because they just don't they don't know have the know-how to build a company, or they don't have the funding, and it's sad. It's painful, you know. I mean, I know guys that have literally could probably cure some, you know, amazing diseases, you know, but they just don't have it, what it takes, you know, but that's, hopefully I'll be able to help with that. So.
Wow. Yeah, I've definitely been tuning into the higher incidence of cancer just amongst clients that I'm serving, younger clients too, and it's something that's on my mind too with you know, the cell phones and the EMFs and like, are these interconnected? Is it a DNA thing? Is it in our genetics?
You know, yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, my brother was a commercial pilot, and when he actually found out about it, it was he was actually landing the plane at LAX, and he had a pain in his head, but that's how they actually did the MRI and found his mass. But you know, they say maybe it was from the UV rays, from the, you know, the sun coming through the cockpit, but I don't know. Who knows? You know, or it could be all those electronics, you know. I don't know. But you know, there's, you know, I'm optimistic about you know, what I think that we're gonna see. I'm pretty confident, you know, some of the stuff that I mean, I think I'm pretty tapped into these. You know, I've got the you know, the CTO of SoftBank is, you know, I just met with him yesterday, and you know, he's one of my advisors, and I've built an amazing team, and these guys are, I mean, they're the biggest investor in OpenAI, and yeah, but I mean, it's amazing what's being built out there. I really think that in the next 10 years that, I mean, like from a medical care standpoint, I think things are going to, I mean, advance to a level that no one knows. I mean, no one can comprehend. I really think that we're going to see some amazing advancements that are going to just blow everybody away. I mean, hopefully nothing negative comes from it too, but you know.
I love the idea of the 3.0 and longevity, and just I'm approaching menopause, and I'm already thinking about how can I optimize this transition through hormonal therapy and functional medicine, and actually taking lab tests as a preventative measure, and then supplementation. Like, there's just so much you can do that doesn't involve treating the symptom, that you can actually optimize the body. So I really appreciate that you're at the forefront of that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just turned 49 2 weeks ago, and you know, and I mean, I've been on hormone replacement therapy since I was 30.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's, I preventative is definitely the way to go. And, and early on, I kind of adopted that whole thing, but I think, almost everybody on my team is doing it. My team is a bunch of old people, but no offense, guys, but if you're listening, but it's, it really, it's amazing. People don't need to live with all of these, feeling old anymore. They're just not unaware of the fact that these things, they don't exist because, insurance doesn't typically cover a lot of the things that we treat and stuff, but we're making it affordable for everybody now. And so it's mainstream. Like there's no reason, it's no longer just, accessible to, pro athletes and movie stars, and by taking the steps early on, and that's why we focus on people that are in their late 30s, because that's the time when you start thinking about it. You don't, think about it. It's like your car. Like, do you wait until your car, breaks down before you bring it into the shop, or do you want to bring it in for your scheduled maintenance checks, every, 6 months or whatever? Then it never has to go to the shop, right, to be fixed, because you still stay well tuned. It's my wife, I got her all, she's on all of the hormones and everything, and it's literally every single thing that is premenopausal symptoms are gone completely.
Yeah, I believe it. I've had friends that have sworn by it. They went from feeling completely crazy and depressed and almost suicidal to just totally normal.
It's a mental, and that's a huge aspect that we didn't get into, but maybe another whole
the podcast.
But, mental health, this is everything focuses around mental health, all of this, and a lot of these actual problems that we're treating are actually stem from mental health. That was the actual source of it, whether it's stress or anxiety or, whatever it is. So, but with the hormones, all of that, a lot of it can get under control,
I'm curious, from a standpoint of just being a movement professional, are there any elements of movement therapy, yoga therapy that your app and core platform will be solving?
Yeah, so we don't, I don't want to just be, I don't believe in a lot of doctors, some doctors, they just throw medicine at things, write a prescription, and it's just a Band-Aid. And it's, that's one thing that I wanted to fix, because with telehealth, it makes it accessible to get testosterone, or if you want to get GLP-1, like Ozempic, Wegovy, now you can get it really easily. But the problem is that it's so convenient that it's questionable, whether it's even, being done right, because there's no interaction with the doctor, and I know this because I literally ordered stuff from a lot of my competition to just go through the process, and it's amazing. Literally you can just answer about 5 questions and you get, I get tirzepatide mailed to me, 3 days later, and I could have just said whatever I wanted, when I answered the questions. And then it's to manage my weight loss, and that's great, but they didn't ask me to do any labs, and there's no support for your diet or your exercise or anything else. And our treatments that we believe in, this is a lifestyle thing. This is something that, so we're trying to support every aspect of it. So it's not only just they write the prescription, but it's you get GLP-1 prescribed to you, and then through our platform you'll have notifications that are telling you when to take it. But then our AI Health Companion will be able to give you specialized or personalized workout plans to help you. down the road, you will be able to, well, I mean, actually all of this stuff is pretty much it's already, functional technically, but it won't be rolled out right away. But so it'll integrate with smart wearable devices. And so we have an API that integrates with, instead of just, having our own, it integrates with basically everyone that's out there. And so you'll have, let's say, based off of whatever, the lab results come back, but on what your what your prescription is for GLP-1 and hormones and everything, and how much weight they want you to lose, you'll have a certain calorie restricted diet. The AI Health Companion will actually put the diet together for you. You can ask it. You can go to the grocery store and you, just like you can in ChatGPT, but you can say put a shopping list together for the and put and it will put it all together, and put a workout regimen together. It will be reading all of your diagnostics, and your calorie burn and your sleeping habits and everything else. And so it's going to be monitoring it, and it'll make adjustments as you go. It's pretty awesome.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. I've been tracking HRV for probably 5 or 6 years with I use the Whoop. Yeah, I love the Whoop because it just motivates me to get better, get my moderate intensity exercise in, and get my strength training in, sleep better.
I mean, I need to do a better job of it. I just got my kids Apple Watches, but it's like, I mean, I have one, I just never wear it, but yeah.
The Whoop, and then I've heard good things about the Garmin, but I've just been using the Whoop, and I like the app. But the interface of wearables, I mean, like you said, it used to be just available for professional athletes, and now everyday people can you can wear a wristwatch, you can, use Dapper to get your functional medicine and your preventative care completely, start to finish mapped out, which is amazing.
And there's a lot of amazing tech that's out there. Like I said, I'm meeting with all these different founders, but there's, we've got some technology that I'm want to acquire at some point, but, eventually, initially we'll just, partner with them, but it actually turns your phone into a diagnostic tool, the same as your Apple Watch or your Garmin or whatever, device you're using. But it, just by looking at your phone, it can actually, read your blood pressure, your temperature, your stress levels, we'll get your pulse. It can diagnose over 2,000 different ailments just by talking and looking at the thing. It's unbelievable. I mean, it scans your face using the technology, that's built into the phone for Face ID, but it measures the blood flow in your face.
It's next level. This next 10 years is going to be just wild. Yeah. I'm excited.
Emotional intelligence is built into it, and it can read your voice, and it can actually detect respiratory distress, and then it uses AI, and it will actually it has. I mean, there's one company that I've been in talks with that. They're using it for managing postpartum depression, and just by talking, it actually can detect all of this, and it's got it's 97% accurate with FDA approval. It's pretty awesome.
Wow. I mean, I've always been into analyzing the voice because I'm into somatic, so the voice never lies. You can even tell if you're lying to yourself if you're through your voice.
I know. I listen to myself play it back and I'm like, oh.
All right, so my final question for you, for the next generation of healthcare leaders, what skills or mindsets do you believe will be essential to thrive in this new era of digital health?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's a tough one. I mean, I don't have all the answers, but I think that it's going to be critical to obviously, it sounds kind of, I don't know. You hear everybody say it, but you have to be open and to innovate. You have to be willing to accept change and, figure it out. If right now, it's kind of scary because things are actually starting to speed up at such a fast clip that if you sit around too long, you're literally going to get passed up. I mean, it's crazy, and then what happens is like you're just going to seem like you're a fossil, even though you're not, and it's, but I think in healthcare, I think what's important though is that, I truly believe that the success is going to be based around don't forget why you're doing these things, because if you're doing it for the money, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. If you're doing it because you want to fix people and make an impression and change the world, then the money will come. Success comes with good things, but that's the most important thing. I mean, in general, I think it is. So.
And where can our folks find you on the web or on any of your social media outlets?
Yeah, I mean, you can always email me. It's david@dapper.care, or LinkedIn. I've got a pretty big presence on there. I'm all over the place. YouTube, a little bit, but yeah.
And for our physicians that are listening in, where can they get involved with Dapper?
Yeah, I mean, you can our new website. We've got websites, but the new one is being rolled out, and it'll be pretty awesome. But you can come. It's just dapper.care, and but yeah, I mean, physicians can email me. Same thing, david@dapper.care. But yeah, so.
Well, thank you so much, David, for sharing and leading a micro movement. I'm excited to have you and excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Aligned Impact. I'm truly grateful to have you here in this growing community of leaders, innovators, and conscious change makers. Check the show notes for all the links and resources we mentioned today, and you can explore more of my work and programs over at FlowShala.com, or connect with me on social media at Summer Huntington and YouTube as well for behind the scenes, movement inspiration, and business tips. Stay tuned for more episodes of Aligned Impact that inspire you to lead with intention, get empowered, and create aligned impact in your life and your community.